In a partially ruined apartment building in a post-apocalyptic France, the landlord, Clape, rents out units and runs a small shop selling meat delicacies. One day, a tenant dons a protective suit made from bags, sneaks downstairs, and hides in a trash bin. He watches as the garbage men collect the bins, but is taken to Clape, who opens it to find the man terrified. Clape smiles, then brings down a butcher's cleaver on his head. The following day, tenants visit Clape's shop to buy fresh meat, paying with corn cobs, each worth its weight in gold. QB and Roger complain about the rising prices but still buy the delicacies. As they leave, a taxi pulls up and a short man unloads his belongings. The taxi driver asks for payment in shoes, so the young man walks barefoot into the building. He came in response to an apartment ad, and Clape sees an opportunity for another victim. Though the man is small and light, Clape offers him the apartment in exchange for doing odd jobs around the building. The man agrees and Clape leads him to the second floor. The young man named Listen unpacks his things, revealing that he works in a circus. Meanwhile, QB and Roger are in their workshop, discussing a neighbor and hoping things will work out for her. Listen starts blowing soap bubbles on the stairs, attracting the attention of two boys and Clape's daughter, Julie. The next morning, the tenants go about their routines. Listen paints the ceiling, Julie plays the cello. Marcel's wife beats a carpet, Marcel inflates his bike tire, and her mother knits in front of the TV. At the same time, Clape and his lover, Mademoiselle Plo, engage in lug games, their bed creaking in rhythm with the building's activities. As the rhythm speeds up, everyone works faster and Listen falls off his ladder. Later, he fixes the shop sign just as the postman, Michael, arrives, who fancies himself Julie's fiancé, much to Clape's approval. Listen warns Michael about the slippery stairs, but Michael dismisses him only to fall. Along the way, Michael drops a parcel for Julie, which the neighbors fight over. Eventually, Listen grabs the package and Michael disperses the crowd by brandishing a gun. When Julie arrives and sees Listen holding the package, Michael introduces himself as her fiancé, but Julie corrects him, saying he's just a friend. Michael says he will wait for her consent and leaves. Julie apologizes to Listen and invites him for tea. Meanwhile, Michael bids farewell to Clape, who reveals that his new tenant is an unemployed circus clown. Life in the building continues with Marcel's mother-in-law knitting furiously while he argues with his wife. Their children head to the basement, where an old man raises frogs and snails, eating them himself. The boys attempt to steal some frogs, but the old man chases them off, enjoying his snails. Julie prepares for Listen's visit, deciding her glasses ruin her appearance and removing them, even though she's nearly blind without them. She practices her movements, counting steps to the table, until the doorbell rings. However, Listen throws off her calculations by sitting in a different chair. He skillfully avoids a hot kettle, helping Julie pour the tea. He then joins a conversation about Michael not understanding why Julie dislikes him. Meanwhile, QB meets their neighbor Aurora, who confesses to hearing a voice calling her to death. Julie suggests that Listen move out of the building because of its age, thin walls, and leaky roof, but Listen likes it here. Hearing this, Julie spills tea and the record player starts skipping. The couple scrambles to fix the situation, knocking over a vase in the process and end up face to face. Julie puts on her glasses and admits she plays the cello. Listen immediately takes out a saw and tells her about his former partner, who disappeared after a performance and was later discovered to have been eaten. Julie is ready to confess everything to Listen, but as he begins playing the saw, she joins in with her cello. Their music fills the building as Clape discusses the new worker with Mademoiselle Plo, who admits that she has taken a liking to him. This gives Clape some troubling ideas. The duet ends and Julie finally tells Listen that his friend was eaten in the house. However, Listen has fallen asleep and missed her confession. Julie realizes she gave him sleeping pills instead of sugar. She tucks him into bed and notices a poster, which reveals that the devoured friend was a monkey. Julie locks Listen's door and returns to her room, where she dreams all night about the horrific attack on the monkey. She then hears her father plotting to kill Listen and sees the neighbors preparing to butcher and eat him. In a panic, Julie screams and wakes up. The next day, Mademoiselle Plo calls Listen to fix a loud squeaky bed. She asks him to crawl underneath while she bounces on the mattress, but the squeak is still not audible. Clape suggests they both bounce on the bed, much to the embarrassment of everyone in the building. Listen eventually finds the rings that need replacing. Meanwhile, Aurora, sitting in a bathtub filled with water, prepares for a meeting. A lamp sits near her, connected to a sewing machine via a piece of cloth. The cord is attached to the doorbell. QB finds a note from her inviting him over and rings the bell, which activates the machine, pulling the cloth and causing the lamp to fall into the water. At that moment, Listen accidentally hits the socket, cutting off electricity to the entire building. Aurora survives and Mademoiselle Plo thanks Listen for fixing the bed, while the neighbor boys pull down her underwear from the balcony. Listen skillfully uses a boomerang to retrieve it. Later, Clape informs Marcel Tapioca that he's behind on rent and must pay with his mother-in-law's payment. That evening, Julie begs her father to let Lizen go, aware that Clape kills tenants for meat. She returns his gift, for which Clape slaps her in anger, furious at her ingratitude. He's tired of her unlucky suitor, though a decent man is courting her, so he's determined to kill the clown. Devastated, Julie goes back to her apartment, opens the fridge, and finds a newspaper article about the Troglodytes rebels living underground. She decides to head into the sewers to contact the fearsome Troglodytes. Meanwhile, Tapioca decides to offer his mother-in-law to Clape. He kicks her ball of yarn out the door and signals the landlord. The old woman steps into the hallway but is frightened by a spider and passes away, leaving Clape screaming in frustration. Julie is surrounded by the Troglodytes, who reveal that Lizen is their enemy because he fixed the building's pipes, cutting off their water supply. Now they're prepared to destroy him. Julie offers the Troglodytes corn and tells them that their enemy works for her father. She promises to lead them to him but gives them a false apartment number. When Julie returns home, a tenant complains about hearing screams at night. She rushes to Lizen's apartment only to find what seems to be a knife sticking out his head, but it turns out to be part of a new trick he's rehearsing. Meanwhile, Clape serves part of Tapioca's grandmother to his family, assuring them that she didn't suffer. Later, Clape overhears a conversation between his daughter and Lizen, where the clown speaks of forgiveness, even for those who ate his monkey. Realizing the relationship between the two has become a problem, Clape begins to worry. The Troglodytes crawl through the sewer pipes to infiltrate the building and capture Lizen. The old man who raises frogs and snails opens all the pipes to flood the basement, creating a perfect environment for his pets. Aurora, meanwhile, prepares for another suicide attempt, tying a rope to the sewing machine, which will release a saucer with a candle to burn through the rope once the water is released. However, the water floods into the basement, stopping the process. Furious, Aurora throws the sewing machine out the window just as Michael delivers a TV program schedule to Clape, which reveals the time of Lizen's performance. The Troglodytes enter the building, find a stash of corn, but continue their mission to capture Lizen. At the same time, Clape hands the newspaper to Plo, who rushes to show Lizen the announcement of the broadcast. Julie hears music coming from Lizen's room and sees the couple dancing, celebrating the news. She leaves and uses the radio to summon the Troglodytes. Everyone is distracted by the TV, and she returns to Lizen's room to watch the broadcast together. Meanwhile, Aurora ties a rope to the door, attaching the other end to the trigger of a gun aimed at her head. She turns on the gas stove and prepares to take a handful of pills. As Julie and Lizen watch TV, Clape climbs to the roof and shakes the antenna, forcing Lizen to go up and fix it. Aurora lights the fuse on a bottle of explosives and puts the noose around her neck. On the roof, Clape attacks Lizen with a cleaver. Julie sees this and tries to warn him, but Plo enters Lizen's room and a fight breaks out. On the roof, Lizen defends himself using the antenna, causing the TV signal to flicker. Meanwhile, Aurora's husband pulls on the door handle, triggering the gun to fire, snapping the noose. Aurora falls, scattering her pills, and the water glass breaks, extinguishing the fuse. Aurora's head closes the gas valve, causing her to spit out the pills. Just as the Troglodytes, Plo, and Aurora's husband turn on the light, an explosion from the accumulated gas triggers a blast. The explosion interrupts Clape's attempt to kill Lizen, causing the butcher to fall from the roof. He grabs a rope to hang on, but is thwarted. Julie rushes to the transmitter to cancel the operation, but she is caught by Michael, who attacks her. Lizen's boomerang cuts the chandelier cord, knocking out the postman. The couple runs to Lizen's room as other tenants flee the fire. Meanwhile, the Troglodytes, realizing their mistake, decide to leave, leaving the woman in the basement. Clape and several tenants try to break into Lizen's room, but Lizen and Julie hide in the bathroom, flooding it to the ceiling. When Clape opens the door, the water washes the attackers away. The building begins to collapse as Plo climbs out of the sewer, finds Lizen's boomerang knife, and gives it to Clape. The Troglodytes save Julie by pulling her through a hole in the ceiling, just as Clape throws the boomerang at Lizen. The boomerang returns and kills Clape. Sometime later, with the butcher shop closed, Lizen and Julie play together on the roof of the now peaceful apartment building. Despite its grim plot, the film is light, witty, and not scary at all. Even the color palette is unusually warm for a horror film, and the word strange is often used to describe Jan's work.